So here we're going to talk about technique and form. This is about you utilizing your kit in a proper way. And the overarching goal is that we have an efficiency in our process. There are ways in which people have been able to sort of muscle things out, but good form is foundational to being good at bow drill. So there's a lot of nuanced details, and we want to hit upon all of those different elements when it comes to bowing, to understanding what's happening with your kit as you examine it, handhold, etc. It's worth acknowledging when doing something new, there's going to be an awkwardness or a discomfort to it, but you should find yourself in a relatively comfortable position quickly. If you are getting excessively exhausted, there's something that you need to adjust. So things that, again, with good form that I'm going to consider is that my foot is on the fireboard right next to the socket with my arch of my foot holding down. This allows my shin to come right here so that I can really lock in my position with my wrist turned into my leg. My knee is in line behind my heel. This back foot is going to help balance me. And being able to put your knee in line behind your heel allows you to just swing on your shoulder complex. So as it allows you to swing on your shoulder complex, you can kind of just let this arm move naturally. And then we're going to talk about how you want to adjust your wrist so that you can keep that bow moving parallel. Structurally, I'm pretty sound. I can breathe easily. Nothing's easily going to push me over, and I can work. So when I get into position, one of the things that I want to check first is that my spindle is straight up and down. So alignment. And alignment meaning that I can apply pressure down through my hand, through the spindle, into the fireboard, and have that be a direct line of pressure. If I'm going to be off in any way, there's not going to be that structural strength. So I want things to be in line. Top of my hand, directly through the handhold spindle into the fireboard. I really want to have this connection here, all of this surface area. What's important about that is that your wrist, it's not muscle rich, it's all connective tissue. And so this helps stabilize by locking these in and having them work together. Some people want to stick their hands out and just death grip it in combination with lots of forearm strength. What happens is that in the midst of bowing, unless you're particularly strong there, you have a lot of movement and then you lose that structural strength again, right? So if this is wobbling on the top, it's definitely wobbling and moving around on the bottom, and that's going to create problems. So again, like highlighting efficiency, we want everything in line. There are a lot of small details that come in with bowing. Bowing should be rhythmic and graceful. Bowing should be rhythmic, and the bow should be parallel to the ground. So with this knee here behind my heel, I can swing on my shoulder complex. If I swing on my shoulder complex, there's a pendulum shape that occurs with my hand, and I have to adjust for that. If I allow this penduluming to occur, the string on my spindle is going to ride up and down. I want this string to generally stay in the middle of my spindle. So to keep this from happening, but yet still maintain that natural movement, I'm going to push forward with my wrist. I'm going to pull back with my wrist. Push forward, pull back. So if you see your bow going like so, or you see that string accommodating and running up and down the spindle, think about the subtle movement of pushing with your wrist and pulling back with your wrist. I'll say 8 times out of 10, people really pull up on the back swing. And you kind of have to overcompensate a little bit in that pulling back and down until you really get a good feel for it. And that way, everything kind of moves in a nice, straight, consistent line. If you're bowing and your spindle's not moving, that's a problem. And that's going to really point to a lack of proper string tension. So anytime you don't see your spindle moving, Anytime your spindle's not moving, your string is too loose, you need to stop and readjust. There are little things you can do, like if you're really close to getting a coal, you can grab up on the string, or what I like to do is press my thumb down on the string. And these are just methods in which are going to shorten that string and increase the tension. But unless you're right towards the very end, it's really worth just stopping and adjusting that knot. Again, adjusting a clove hitch on the bottom is really quick and easy and worth doing. If you have a really long string, sometimes it just like whips around and it can really knock into your dust that you're forming. And so clove hitch and then followed by a bunch of half hitches just to take up the length is the way to go. When I see people get into this position and they look to bow, I really appreciate the natural fluid movement of this. And yet I see a lot of people try and go like so. This is a little exaggerated. Usually it's a little bit more turned off. And this can be really exhausting on the shoulders and the back muscles. And so really bringing this around and parallel with your foot. Some other things that I often see is that people will want to grab in the middle of the bow. And this really reduces your ability to use that full length of the string. And not to get those full rotations, it's going to be way more efficient in the process. So you want to grab all the way on the back of the bow. I have a extraordinarily long handle, but I'm grabbing up here on the back towards the bottom of the string where it's tied off. And then as I'm bowing, I want to use that whole length. I want to use the whole length of the bow. As I'm bowing, I want to make sure that there's a rhythm to it. So if I'm like, these are like short, harsh strokes, and they're going to require more work out of me. So, you know, really think about this in comparison to this. If you're using the full length of the bow, you're going to get more revolutions of the spindle per stroke. So every time the bow stops and changes direction, that spindle is going to cool down ever so slightly. And so if you can increase those rotations, you're going to increase more heat and you're not going to be working against that slight cooling factor of stopping and changing directions. So here I'm bowing and I'm keeping my arm down. If I bend my elbow, notice, oh, hard for me to do. If I bend my elbow, you can see that I start to pendulum a lot more. So I want to talk about downward pressure. You want to start light and increase until you hit smoke or dust, and then you're good. If it's too light in pressure, you're going to create burnishing. And if it's too heavy, it makes it way more difficult to bow, and it becomes really exhausting. That's not moving you forward in the whole process. So too light, not much is happening. You can see I'm also shaking a lot because I'm not really having that force downward. And there's just the hint of sheen, of that glassiness of burnishing starting to occur. If it's too much and I'm crushing down on it, it's really gonna exhaust me. And you can see I have to like really just shove, push into it. So, not efficient. The speed is a jog. If you're sprinting, you're gonna tire yourself out before you make enough dust. And if you're too slow, it's never gonna build up enough heat. So, this is generally my pace. I can talk, I can breathe, I'm focused. And I'm just producing enough dust and smoke that I can hang out both at that downward pressure level and at speed until that notch in the socket fills with dust.